Hello, this is Hwansan Sunim, and welcome to our program. Longtime viewers of our program will know that in the past, I have mentioned my very long friendship with Dr. Jim Kim, the president of the World Bank. And while I really don't want to name drop, I do feel that the conversations that we've had over the years are important and have great relevance for the modern age that we live in. In particular, I'd like to talk about a conversation with him that I had just a few years ago. At the time, he was visiting Korea, and we met on a personal basis, very quietly. And he was talking about some of the challenges that he was facing, in particular, the ongoing problem of the deterioration of the global natural environment, and also his own personal mission to eradicate world poverty within his own lifetime. So these are truly enormous challenges to take on. And so I asked him, friend to friend, I asked him, do you really think it's possible to do this? That we can pull off such amazing, to pull off such amazing goals? And he looked me straight in the eye and said, it's definitely possible. We have the means, we have the resources, we have the talent. There's any number of ways we can achieve these goals. But the real problem is this, he said. He said, even if we managed to fix the environment, to eradicate poverty, without changing our mind, the next generation will simply create all of those problems all over again. We cannot change the world without first changing our own mind, our own human consciousness. This comment that he made impressed me very greatly, and it actually helped change my view of the world. And I agree with him completely. So for today's episode, I would like to talk about the very important problem of the importance of enlightenment in the 21st century. Once again, the topic of today's episode is the importance of enlightenment in the 21st century. Now, we have for you today a very special Dharma speech that was delivered by my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, almost 20 years ago on actually at the beginning, what was considered the beginning of the 21st century. He gave this Dharma speech on January 2nd in the year 2000. And in this Dharma speech, he specifically laid out the teachings which he believed we need to follow to be healthy and happy and enlightened in the 21st century. So why don't we listen to this Dharma speech together and consider what we can do about getting enlightened in this day and age that we live in. So please assume proper meditation posture. So straighten up, tuck in your chin, take the tip of your tongue and place it lightly against the roof of your mouth. Look straight forward with a relaxed and steady gaze, but do not stare at any object or point in front of you. And then together, let's do a little bit of preparation breathing. So together, inhale through your nose, hold, then exhale through your mouth. Once again, inhale through your nose, hold, then exhale through your mouth. One more time, inhale through your nose, hold, then exhale through your mouth. And now let's engage abdominal breathing, dantian breathing, and at the same time, let's raise our hwadu, the question that we ask ourselves. 이뭐고, what is this? We breathe in, pause, and then on the out breath, 이뭐고, what is this? What is this that directs my body? What is this that thinks my thoughts? What is this that feels my emotions and physical sensations? In this way, let's meditate as we listen to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam.
2000년 첫 번째 일요일을 맞이해서 몇 마디 말씀을 드리고자 합니다. 고인의 말씀에 일일지계는 죄엇이며 그날 하루의 계획은 새벽에 있고 1년지계는 죄어준다. 1년의 계책은 봄에 있고 평생지계는 젊었을 때 있다. 이런 말씀이 있습니다. 지금 이 시간은 하루의 계책이요, 금년 1년의 계책이요, 우리 평생의 계책이 이 시간에 있고 21세기의 계책이 바로 오늘에 있고 2000년의 계책이 오늘에 있습니다. 그러한 대단히 뜻깊은 날을 맞이했으니 불가볼 산승이 형제, 자매 그리고 도반 여러분께 한마디 말씀은 지금 당부의 말씀을 드린 것이 산승의 도리라고 생각을 합니다. 새 천년을 맞이해서 세계 각국에서 온 지구촌 각처에서 거창한 행사를 어제보다 거행을 했습니다. 우리 어렸을 때는 목욕탕 시설이 별로 없고 여름이 되면 목욕하고 개천에 가서 목욕하고 등모하고 자주 목욕을 못했었습니다. 그러다가 석 달 금음날이 되면은 가마솥에다가 더물을 기어서 식구대로 묵은 때를 벗기고 그리고 그 옷을 벗고 새 옷을 갈아입고 그리고 꼭두 새벽에 어른들께 세배를 올리고 세뱃돈도 타고 마을의 어른들께도 다 세배를 올리는 기억이 지금도 눈에 선합니다만 그 묵은 때를 벗기고 헌 옷을 벗고 새 옷을 갈아입을 때의 그 감격스러운 것은 지금도 기억이 생생합니다. 그런 의미에서 새해를 맞이해서 우리가 거창한 축제 행사를 세계 각국에서 거행하는 것도 전혀 무의미하다고는 안 생각합니다만 그런 것이 하나의 행사로서만 끝내고 만다면 무슨 의의가 있겠습니까? 국가적으로나 사회적으로나 온 세계를 위해서나 또는 각자 자기 자신을 위해서도 정말 육체의 때만 벗기고 새 옷만 갈아입을 뿐만이 아니고 마음에 철저하게 과거의 자기가 해온 신구의 사목을 통해서 지은 업과 잘못을 철저하게 반성을 하고 참여를 하고서 앞으로 어떻게 내가 살아가야 할 것인가, 어떻게 각오를 새롭게 해야 할 것인가에 대해서 깊이 마음에 깨달은 바가 있어야 하리라고 생각을 합니다. 우리는 일상생활이나 언행이나 사회의 일원으로서 정치가로서 교육자로서 사업가로서 또는 학자로서 가정주부로서 자기에게 주어진 소임이 있고 그 소임을 잘했는가 못했는가도 그것도 반성을 하고 고칠 것은 고쳐서 개과천선하는 그런 계기를 가져야 할 것이며 특히 우리 불자들은 그런 데에만 그치지 아니하고 그런 속에서도 참나를 깨닫는 그래가지고 생사해탈을 해서 불조의 해명을 잇는 데까지 동시에 정진을 해가야 하는 것입니다. 그러한 철저한 각오와 실천이 없다면 새해를 맞이해서 무슨 뜻이 있는 것이며 새천년의 거창한 행사가 무슨 필요가 있는 것입니까?
So in his Dharma speech for the new millennium, Sun Master Songdam tells us that we need to change the way that we live. It's time to make a change. It's time to go to another level. So how are we living now? And I would like to say that I think that as modern people living in the 21st century, what we have in common, regardless of cultural differences, national differences, and so forth, what we have in common, I think, is that we seek to find satisfaction, happiness, and meaning from the external world. We expect the things of the external world and other people and even other living beings to give us our happiness. And because of this, we are willing to dig into the earth and exploit natural resources to create goods and services and distractions and diversions that we don't really need. Similarly, we ask other people to make us happy. We want other people to love us, to understand us, to respect us. Most of us gather a great deal of our sense of self-worth from how other people treat us. So it's not enough that they treat us well, we even want them to agree with us. We want to believe what we believe. We want them to have the same customs and habits that we have. And when they don't, when they fail to provide us the ingredients of our happiness, then we become upset. Often we try to reject them, or even worse, we try to coerce them. We try to force them, or manipulate them, or persuade them, or negotiate with them so that they'll behave in the way that we want them to make us happy. There's a fundamental problem when every single person in the world asks everyone and everything else to make him or her happy. That puts us in conflict with one another, and it also puts us in conflict with the world around us. For this reason, from the Sun Buddhist point of view, this idea of finding happiness from the outer world is considered not only dysfunctional, but also destructive. And as an alternative to that way of living, as a new sort of paradigm for a happy and meaningful life, the Sun Buddhist tradition, in particular Sun Master Songdam, tells us that we need, in this new century and in this new millennium, we need to seek our own enlightenment, all of us, not just monks, not just practicing Buddhists, but every single one of us. Enlightenment is needed for this world. The awakening of consciousness, a revolutionary transformation of consciousness is needed for us to live this new century and this new millennium properly. And if that's the case, then what we need to learn collectively are what we could call mental self-cultivation techniques. This may be actually the most important issue that faces us in this day and age. Now, you may think that that's a kind of an exaggeration. You think, well, why is it so important that we all learn mental self-regulation techniques? And the answer that I would like to propose is, it's because the unregulated, uncultivated human mind is the greatest single threat to the survival of the human species. Consider the way that the human species lives. We're very unusual. There is probably no other animal that will pollute or poison its own natural habitat. If you build a house for a dog, most likely that dog will not urinate or defecate in its own house. It'll go outside to do that. Most animals protect their niche in the ecosystem that they depend on to live. Human beings are unusual in that we pollute and poison our place in nature, even though we depend on it for survival. We poison and pollute almost everywhere we settle down. Similarly, in our relations with each other, it's no secret that it is the unregulated, uncultivated, uncontrolled human mind that accounts for the greatest destruction and suffering in human lives. There is no natural disaster and no disease that kills as many human beings and non-human living beings as the unregulated, uncontrolled human mind. Now let's consider what is probably one of the most defining characteristics of the 21st century, and that is the amazing power and pervasiveness of technology. More than ever before, technology occupies nearly every part of our lives, nearly every part of our society and civilization. And the power of technology is really unprecedented. People living maybe 200 or even 100 years ago could not possibly dream that technology would be so powerful, that nuclear weapons would be invented, that vehicles that fly into space would be created, that people would harness the power of microwaves and radio waves, and we would manipulate the human genome to produce the kind of effects that we want. People in those days, if they saw what technology can do now, they would think that the power of technology is literally godlike. But as we know, it is not a God that controls technology. It is the unregulated, uncontrolled human mind that utilizes, creates, and develops technology. And this, I believe, is kind of a difficult situation, a very dangerous situation. Because the human mind is uncontrolled, the proliferation of technology, the uncontrolled use of it, is likewise out of control, unregulated. And we now fear what technology will do to us. Even though we invented it, we fear what an out-of-control technological system will do to us, how it will turn back upon us. And this has become an issue of great concern in this day and age that we live in. So I think when we look at all that, I think it's fair to say that the world needs enlightened masters, enlightened people. The truth is the world needs you and me to become enlightened. In the past, it was enough for extraordinary individuals to make such spiritual attainments. It was enough for the occasional, unique individual to become a saint or a sage or an enlightened master. But now I think because all of our lives are connected with one another and our collective power aggregates, and with the aid of technology, it just goes out of control, I think the age calls upon us that we all must become enlightened. We all must cultivate enlightenment in our personal lives, regardless of our personal background or occupation, and so forth. So why don't we listen once again to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us how we can incorporate the practice of cultivating enlightenment in our daily lives.
도라고 하는 것이 경전 속에 들어있는 것도 아니고 무슨 큰 절에 가야 있는 것도 아니고 무슨 인도나 그런 데 부처님 4대 성기 순례한다고 해서 거기에 있는 것도 아니고 눈 한번 감았다 떴다 하고 숨 한번 나갔다 들어갔다 하는 눈을 통해서 모든 것을 보고 귀를 통해서 모든 것을 듣고 코로 냄새 맡고 혀로 맛보고 앉고 쓰고 눕고 하는 그 찰나찰나를 여의고 도는 따로 어디 먼 데 가서 존재한 것이 아닙니다. 조사설해하신 면목도 마찬가지고 불교의 최고의 진리도 역시 마찬가지입니다. 그래서 일념 즉시 무량겁이요 일미진중의 함시관이라고 의상조사의 법성계에도 있습니다마는 한 띠끌 속에 지방세계가 그 속에 들어있는 것입니다. 그 띠끌이 모여서 세계를 이루었고 세계가 바로 알고 보면 띠끌에 지내지 못한 것입니다. 그래서 한 띠끌 속에 시방세계가 들어있고 한 띠끌 속에 삼세제불도 그 속에 들어있다고는 진리를 우리는 경전을 통해서 알고 있습니다. 그리고 한 생각 속에 일념 즉시 무량을 앞으로 기원 2000년이 어제부터 시작했습니다마는 지나간 2000년이라고 해봤자 그것이 잠관세이고 앞으로 1000년간 굉장히 먼 것 같지만 그것도 하루하루 지나다 보면 또 1000년이 다하게 되는 것이고 그렇게 해서 무량겁도 과거에 이미 지나갔고 앞으로 무량겁도 그렇게 해서 다가올 것입니다만 무량겁이 갑자기 어디서 뚝 떨어진 것이 아니라 1초 1초가 모여서 무량겁이 된 것이고 우리에게 느껴지는 한 생각 한 생각이 모여서 하루가 지나고 1년이 지나고 100년이 지나고 1000년이 지난 것입니다. 그렇게 해가지고 한 생각이 바로 무량겁인 것입니다. 한 생각은 다 무슨 생각이건 상관이 없습니다. 좋은 생각이 일어나건 나쁜 생각이 일어나건 망상이 일어나건 번뇌가 일어나건 성현의 말씀이 생각이 나건 부처님의 말씀이 생각이 나건 누가 자기를 향해서 욕을 퍼붓건 지내간 언짢은 일이 생각나건 그건 전혀 상관이 없습니다. 무슨 생각이 일어나건 바로 그 생각이 다음 생각으로 번져가기 전에 이 뭐고 이것이 바로 한 생각 속에 한 생각 단속을 안 하면 지옥으로 떨어질 사람이 한 생각 돌이킴으로써 부처님 세계로 돌아가는 길 진화의 세계로 돌아가는 거죠. 그 한 생각을 단속할 줄 모르는 사람은 일평생도 그렇게 헛되게 살아갈 것이고 수없는 업을 지어가지고 육도윤회를 하게 되는 것입니다. 그 한 생각이 얼마나 소중한가 그 한 생각을 단속을 할 줄 아는 사람이 진실로 불법을 믿는 사람이고 수행을 할 줄 아는 사람입니다. 금강경이나 법화경, 하왕경, 원각경 그런 경전을 많이 읽어서 교리에 해박한 지식을 가졌다 하더라도 자기 마음 한 생각이 일어난 것을 단속해서 자기의 본성을 돌이킬 줄 모른다면 그 사람은 불법을 옳게 믿은 사람이 아닙니다. 인생을 올바르게 살아간 사람이 아닙니다. 불교학을 연구해서 박사가 되고 세속의 모든 학문을 해서 여러 가지 박사학위를 가졌다 하더라도 자기 마음 닦는 공부를 하지 아니한 사람은 훌륭한 인격자가 될 수도 없고, 머리가 좋고 운이 좋고 팔자를 잘 타고나고 여러 가지 좋은 여건에 태어나서 국회의원이 되고 장관이 되고 대통령이 되고 최고 갑부가 되었다 하더라도 자기 마음을 단속해서 참 사람이 되지 않는다면 그런 사람을 믿을 수가 없는 것입니다. 그런 사람은 남에게 큰 이익을 주지 못할 뿐만 아니라 자기 자신의 인생도 보장을 할 수가 없는 것입니다.
In his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam makes the rather striking claim that the so-called Tao cannot be found in religious scriptures or even monasteries or even religious sacred sites. Now, for those of you who don't know, the word Tao is a Chinese term that's used in both Chinese Taoism and Buddhism. Literally translated, it means path or way. And in the Buddhist context, it means the path to enlightenment, the path to truth. So Sun Master Songdam is saying something very unusual here. He says that the path to enlightenment cannot be found in religious teachings, cannot be found in monasteries, cannot be found in these sacred sites that people often go to venerate their religious tradition. So then where can the Tao, the path to enlightenment, be found? And he says that it's found literally in the blink of an eye. What does that mean? The path to enlightenment, the path to truth, is found in the moment that light strikes your eye, and in your mind you see a visual form. It is found in the moment that air vibrations strike your ear, and in your mind you hear sound. In other words, this is extraordinary. In other words, enlightenment is found in the very instant of perceptual experience. Enlightenment is found in the very heart of our lived experience in this very moment, right here, right now. All we need to do is turn our mental gaze inward, use correct breathing, ask ourselves, 이모고, try to perceive the imperceptible perceiver and raise the great doubt, and we have entered into the path to enlightenment. This means that we do not have to follow an external authority like some legendary figure of the past, like the Buddha or Bodhidharma or the great religious founders of other religious traditions. We do not have to follow a specific political or religious leader or some kind of guru. We do not have to go to a special place. We do not have to move from where we are. We do not have to wait until after we die to enter into a transcendent afterlife. We do not have to wait, in fact, at all. Now, is this not what modern people living in the 21st century desperately want to believe? Don't we want to believe this? That in our ordinary selves and in our ordinary lives is hidden and buried a real and sacred truth. That in our daily routines, our daily schedules, our weekly schedules, our monthly schedules, our annual schedules, in all the repetitive behaviors that we engage in, the work, the meetings, all those things that we do, buried within that endless repetition is a true and meaningful, truly alive life. Isn't that what we want to know when we look at ourselves in the 21st century? I believe that this is a very welcome teaching in this day and age. It fits in with the questions that we have about ourselves. Sun Master Songdam and the Sun Buddhist tradition tells us that when we look at ourselves, don't look at our external appearance. Don't look at our religion or our occupation or whatever it is that we may have. Now, modern people tend to be highly self-conscious. We are constantly evaluating ourselves, judging ourselves, and grading ourselves. And if we have to do that, if we have to evaluate ourselves, the tradition teaches us don't evaluate yourself according to what kind of job you have, what kind of resume you have, how much money you make, the kind of people you're friends were, the kind of people that you're friends with, and what social networks that you belong to. It's not that these things are unimportant, but if you really want to assess yourself and the way that you're living life, then look at yourself in terms of mental self-mastery, what Sun Master Songdam calls the ability to regulate one thought. That is what determines how authentic a person and how authentic a life we are living and we are being. Now, our society and educational system don't teach us specific techniques of mental self-mastery. In the course of living, I think we learn basically, we on our own develop basically 3 different skills. The first is we try to get ourselves to do what we think we should do. The second is we try to get ourselves not to do the things we think we shouldn't do. And we think of that as discipline, doing what we should do and not doing what we shouldn't do. And added to those 2 is a sort of unofficial category that we're not so comfortable admitting, and that is our ability to hide our true thoughts and feelings. You know, our ability to smile at someone that we don't actually enjoy being with. Our ability, when we get angry or afraid or sad or lonely or worried, our ability to act like nothing's bothering us. We can even go further and say that we try to cultivate the ability to hide our true intentions, even from ourselves. So in certain kinds of work settings or educational settings, we may make a suggestion or a proposal that we claim to be for the common good, but that's actually for our own self-profit. What we know to be selfish, self-centered impulses, intentions, and motivations within ourselves, and we think of self-mastery, self-regulation as the ability to hide these sort of self-centered thoughts and feelings that we hold within ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that we're hypocrites. What I'm saying is that because we have not been trained in specific, concrete methods of self-mastery, we think that our inner thoughts, emotions, and motivations are beyond our control. And if we have negative motivations and thoughts and feelings, we think that the only thing we can possibly do is hide them and try to restrain them. This is a problem of education, not character, from the Sun Buddhist point of view. And what Sun Master Songdam proposes to us is that if we could learn proper meditation technique, we could transform ourselves from the inside out. Most people don't even know that it's possible to transform the structure of our internal intention and motivation so that we can go from being selfish to becoming more altruistic. We don't even know or dream that such a transformation is possible. And so most of us on the inside secretly feel bad about ourselves. We feel like there's nothing we can do about the most negative sides of our personality and of our minds. So in this respect, I would like to make a comparison with a phenomenon that's been occurring over the past, I think, about 3 or 4 decades. And that is the culture of physical health and fitness. Until probably, at least in the West, until probably the 1960s and 1970s, ordinary people didn't really exercise that much. But then that exercise fad caught on and people changed their lifestyle, and jogging and lifting weights became something that ordinary people do, not just elite professional athletes and other physical performers. But then beginning around the 80s, ordinary people began to use highly specialized exercise techniques that until recently, only athletes had used. And so you saw for the first time ordinary people trying to build up their bodies like professional athletes, like professional bodybuilders. And they would engage in extremely strenuous athletic events like marathons and triathlons. And so our concept of what is possible for the human body, the ordinary human body, to do completely changed. It used to be that we thought, I have to have a very special kind of rare body in order to get it into really amazing shape. Now what people believe is, even with this ordinary body that I have, if I use the right techniques of exercise and diet and try hard enough, then I too can go to a very, very high level of physical performance. Our understanding of the limitations of the ordinary human body changed. And so what I would like to suggest is that we likewise need a transformation of our perception of what the ordinary mind can do, what the ordinary heart can do. If we can, with diligence and proper diet techniques and proper exercise techniques, take our body to the very height, the very pinnacle of health and fitness development, can't we do the same with our mind? Wouldn't it be possible for the ordinary person, the ordinary mind, living an ordinary life, to take proper meditation technique and proper ethical self-regulatory behavior and transform our minds so that we too could become extraordinary on the inside? We too could experience and give and receive extraordinary heights of love and kindness and generosity and wisdom. In the same way that so many people believe that they can change their lives through exercise and fitness, could we not take an additional step and think, I can change my own mind. I too can become like those legendary figures of the past. I don't have to be a special, unique person with a special calling to become a monk or a hermit or something. Right where I live, I can become, in my heart and in my mind and in my spirit, a special and extraordinary person, an awakened person, an enlightened person. It really just requires a change in our self-perception, the same kind of change that we had about our own bodies in the last few decades. In this Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam shares with us the Mahayana teachings about the universe, telling us that each mote of dust contains the entire universe. Each moment contains all of eternity. Each thought contains all things. And it is the Mahayana belief that just as our cell phones, our electronic tablets, and our personal computers can connect to the internet and have access to the vast amounts of information there, and also make connection with all of the other people who are connected to the internet, in exactly the same way, the individual human mind can connect with the universe, can have access to all of the information in the universe, and can communicate with and connect with all things and all beings in the universe. This is an extraordinary claim to make, and I believe one that is worth researching, that in this new century and new millennium, we ought not only focus our attention on the development of technology or the development of our physical health and fitness, we could also explore the limits of human perception and human consciousness. Most modern people harbor a secret guilt. We look back on the atrocities of the 20th century and we think, wow, we know that human beings can do really, really bad things. And so we're afraid of the development of artificial intelligence, AI. We worry that if AI became self-conscious and looked at human beings from an objective point of view, they would try to wipe us out. In other words, we worry that our own children, if they knew who and what we really are, wouldn't like us and would reject us. And the point, and what Sun Master Songdam tells us is that we don't have to feel this way. If in the 20th century we learn collectively how bad we can be, maybe in the 21st century we can learn how good we can be. That has never been done. How collectively good and aware and enlightened and clear-headed can we be? This is the direction I believe that our civilization must go in order to prosper and, of course, survive. It's very common in this day and age to look to technology for the solutions to all of our problems. But we must remember that technology is only a tool. It is only as helpful or as harmful as the intentions of the person or people who use that tool. If we want to use technology in a proper way, we must train the mind that invents, develops, and utilizes that technology. So, in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that if we truly want to transform our civilization, we also must pay equal attention to transforming our own consciousness. This, I believe, is the message of Sun Buddhism and Sun Master Songdam for the 21st century. This takes us to the end of another episode. So once again, I will thank all of our viewers for participating in today's episode, and I will conclude with the traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain enlightenment. And now let us enter into our closing session of meditation. Please assume correct meditation posture. 상불론 하용두 펼쳐진곤나